Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, you guys, it was a doozy of an episode on Sunday of Sister Wives. We saw for the first time Kody and Meri sit down and talk about what is going on with their union, their untraditional connection. Now, Meri and Kody were married legally for over 20 years, and during the episode, they visited with their therapist, Nancy, to talk about where they were at, what they wanted moving forward, and working on tools to help them take steps towards a happier spot. Meri, for her part, spends a lot of her time on social media posting photos and posting quotes about being alone, moving on, leaving things. You know, she's very cryptic. Her social media is also dedicated to her business with LuLaRoe, so it's hard to know whether or not, you know, she's doing these quotes to encourage people to join her company or if they're directed towards Kody. But she seems to interact both with her Sister Wives fans along with the LLR clientele through these social media practices, and even in her Facebook group that has over 95,000 people, Meri does viewing parties with the group and comments and talks through things with her 95,000 fans. And it's in that group where she talked about over the weekend during the live stream or live during the show, she talked about sort of the difficulty of having all of this play out so many months later. According to Meri in the group, she says that they don't actually find out what airs at all until they get the final cut and then when they see it on the show. They have no idea what the other person says in their interviews, and so at times it can be difficult for them to hear what the other person has to say about them. Imagine her surprise, I would guess, having to relive what she went through last year with Kody and then hearing Kody say, "I regret being married to her," because he did not say that in his, or at least they did not show that in his session with the two of them and Nancy. He said in a private interview that Meri mourns the relationship that we have and I regret the marriage that we had. He also in the interview talked about how he had felt deceived. He discussed about how he didn't really know what he was getting into. He was open about his belief that when he married her, they had this very fast courtship, even though in their book from 2013, Becoming Sister Wives, they talked about how they were friends for a few years. They courted for 4 months. They apparently knew each other well. Meri always described them as best friends. But Kody said in his interview that as time wore on, he felt more and more despondent and deceived about what he was getting into with marrying Meri. Now, it could have been not just that he regrets Meri, but maybe the whole AUB, because before he actually was involved with Meri, he was not in the fundamental church. He grew up in the LDS. His father converted to polygamy later when he was older, but he did not grow up with multiple wives in a home. So he grew up with like a single mother and father, and they didn't add one until he was well outside of the house. Knowing that, his deception and that could have been just about the whole lie of polygamy, or it could just be that perhaps he was promised a lot of things from Meri that he didn't ultimately receive. In the book Becoming Sister Wives, he did talk about how some of the biggest things that he admired about her was that she was very patient and she was a good listener and she was very pure, because that's super important, right? And that, she was a godly woman. Now, I don't think, perhaps he had this idea that Meri was like this wallflower, right? Well, she's definitely not a wallflower now. And in that same session, they also talked about how Meri seemingly doesn't have the best relationships with other members of the family. And they sort of danced around this, whether or not Meri might have some sort of anger issues. And in her group, she actually stated that she's a fire, aim, ready kind of person, meaning that she reacts, responds, lashes out, and then after she does that, she comes back and she's like, "Oh crap, what did I do?" Suggesting that she's reactive, which is what they talked about in the session. But in her group, she actually shared this, and she said, She said, okay, many of you ask if this is hard to rewatch. It's like this. We go through the experience, then we move forward a couple of months, then we do the interviews, and it brings back all these emotions. Then we go forward another few months and we see the cut, then another month or so, and it airs on TV. Talk about rubbing salt in a wound. So she had to do the filming, then they had to come back and do the interviews, and then they had to come back and watch the cut. And so she feels like it's, I would imagine this whole conversation is she's been reliving it over and over and over and over again over the last few months. And it doesn't appear that they still spend very much time together because the two of them have not shared a single photo together on social media since January of 2019, over a year ago. She also rarely shares photos of her with her family. She actually spends most of her time traveling for her business, LLR, doing different like leadership conferences, going on cruises, you know, all that stuff that comes with being a top producer for the company. So obviously we are in a spot right now where social distancing is a big thing, and she has noted that she's not with anyone. In fact, in an interview with Us Weekly, they asked the ladies how they were doing, and she actually said, my typical schedule involves a lot of travel, and I always feel blessed when I get to be at home more than a little bit of time. Luckily, I'm able to work from home, so this doesn't feel out of the norm for me at this point. I've limited where I go in my daily errand running. I'm not seeing much of the rest of the family because we're all social distancing. So it's a little weird that we can't get together, but we know it's best to stay out of in our own individual homes. So basically, Meri is saying that she spends most of her time by herself. Kody is only staying with one wife. I'll get into that in another video. But during that, we know that he doesn't spend the night at her home anyway, so it wouldn't be that different. The difference here is that she's not seeing her family for filming, because filming itself is on hold for any reality shows until everything passes. But then she shared this shortly after, like just today, she shared, there will always be someone who can't see your worth. Don't let it be you. A quote by Mel Robbins. Now, I don't know if she's implying that Kody does not see her worth or that she herself doesn't see her worth. I mean, it would be fair to say that someone who doesn't see their own self-worth would maybe stay in a situation where they are unhappy, not taken care of, and have a husband that basically neglects them and makes them like live by themselves because of moral obligations. He said that the only reason they're together is because of the covenants that they shared. Otherwise, they don't have much of a relationship. So in order to stay in that sort of place, you have to buy into this mindset that is polygamy, which means that you don't get to have your own self-identity because your identity is your family. But Meri doesn't spend a lot of time with her family anyway. So who is this directed towards? Is this directed towards Kody? Because he literally said all of these really nasty things about her on the last episode. You know, I regret being married to her. I've been deceived by her. She has bad relationships with everyone. She treats everybody crappy. She's got really reactive behaviors, you know, basically implying that she has a horrible temper. She has terrible relationships with the adult children. Like, it was all like Meri, 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 Meri. And now today she's like, there will always be someone who doesn't see your worth. So Kody, do you not see her worth? It's hard. It's challenging because even in a normal family, I would say that, you know, there's always going to be people that don't get along. But in this situation, I think I stated the other day, like, you're forced to get along with your husband's kids from another relationship. That's not an easy feat for anyone. And it's current relationships. So, I mean, a lot of families do this and they're able to, you know, be kind to children from other relationships, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And it can be a struggle given the fact that they're all sharing the same person and she's getting no part of the pie. So she's by herself all the time. She's reliving everything that he said. Now she's saying, don't let anyone not see your worth. Kody, if you don't see her worth and you don't value who she is, just let her go. Covenant schmovement. Who cares? There is no point in staying together just because you took a vow and you said you had to do this forever, especially if you feel like you are both being deceived and you are both in completely different places, and being together continually draws negativity to both you and the other person and causes friction in the family. Meri said the only reason she stays is because of the kids and the sister wives. She did admit that if she walks away, she would effectively be shunned and that she would lose all of the relationships, including the ones with the kids and the wives, even the good relationships. Kody gets to keep everything. And it's typical when a wife leaves, especially one that's either like been pushed out or is forced out, that the parent that remains in the family will turn the children against her and make them believe that whatever she did was wrong, which is really what he's already doing. He's already making everyone believe that whatever Meri does is wrong. But to be honest, this situation isn't healthy for anyone. Everyone is sharing one person. Everyone's like stretched thin. He has 18 kids, 2 grandkids. He's got 4 households. It's just too much. Nobody can thrive in that kind of situation, period. So if she leaves, he's going to turn everyone against her. So what is she going to do? She's either going to keep the people that she actually does care about, like her daughter, Mariah, and she's probably close to maybe some of the adult kids, maybe. I know she and Maddie don't get along, but maybe some of the younger kids, I don't know, but she does have a relationship with Robin that she cares about, and Robin has said this season that she doesn't want to be in the family without Meri. She and Christine and Janelle have always had a tenuous relationship, and they're not close, so I don't think she would miss them. Maybe their kids, though. Anyway, at some point, Meri, all of these posts that you make, and I know you don't watch, but whether or not you do, what I would say to Meri is that at some point, all of these posts that you make, you need to sort of put your money where your mouth is. And it might be hard, and ripping that Band-Aid off might be tough, but I think it's more healthy for you to leave than it is for you to stay. And if anyone were to walk away from you and to actually abandon you, that would be horrible. Look at Christine's mother. Christine's mom left, and they still have a relationship. Why couldn't you? It would be up to each individual person. So if Robin wanted to have a relationship with you, she still could. If Mariah wanted to have one, she still could. Kody seems to apply these rules any which way he wants. It's a conundrum. So what are your thoughts about her constantly sharing these vague statements about leaving, about her worth? And then Kody never says anything because he never puts anything on Instagram, and he only tweets during the show. And none of her sister wives ever address it. Do you think she'll ever leave? Do you think this is about Kody and what he said? Do you think it would be weird to like always be traveling and then be stuck in a house that's like 6,000 square feet by yourself? Because that's what she's doing right now. And it hasn't stopped her from selling her clothes. She's still doing lives and selling her clothes every night or almost every night in her group. So we'll have to see. But this whole world of polygamy is so messed up, and I just wish that she could practice what she preaches. All right, you guys, I'll be back later with more. Bye.